Alright, hello and welcome. I've decided I want to do another stream. And this time around I'm doing something a bit different. You may notice from the title of the video we got 3 trains listed up there, and that's because I want to do one of the things I was originally going to do, which is show off every single train that I know how to drive and own. And the thing with that is that I'm really hoping this stream goes well. I'm hoping I can show everything. I'm hoping that it all makes sense when I explain things. And I'm hoping that basically we can get underway fairly soon. I am going to get a few things talked about in this first. How long do you think it's going to be? So I'm starting on the East Coast way. I'm going to start up the HST in a moment when I'm done clearing my throat, which is something that really annoys me. I haven't got any weather effects. I've just started at like 4:50 in the morning, even though it's really welcome to Spyro Dragon. Even though it's really light in the morning, to say the least. It's 4:50 and it's still as if it's, I don't know, 5 in the afternoon. It looks like that anyway. So I'll begin with, well, turn on the lights. Might as well start it all up in a moment. We can listen to that get up and running. Really easy to start this thing up, honestly. You just say to engine off, I think it is, engine off. And then you just press that button, that's it. So, yeah, I'm starting with the HST because I've got something relevant to say about it. I was going to talk a little bit about West Cornwall local to start with. And I'm hoping that people come along tonight and have fun with the stream, because I'll be streaming until I've covered every single train that's in the title of the video. The 43, 395 and 314, picked by somebody other than me, because I can't really pick things very well. Might as well mess with that. Is there anything I've forgotten now? AWS is there. Should be neutral. Take off the brakes. And lock the doors. There should be a button in here to lock the doors, but I don't know where it is. I always use the D-pad. I figured out some interesting things today about the controls that they've apparently introduced. I don't think you could do that before, what I'm going to show. And I can't go anywhere because the doors are still open. Well, off we go then. If it's too loud, let me know. If you can't hear me. Or something like that. I hope you can all hear me. And I'll even refresh the stream on my laptop because I don't trust it. I don't trust it to show everybody's comments. So I decided to start with the HST because I've got something to say about it. Welcome Music of Adam and happy 30th birthday as well. To Music of Adam, of course. I'm not 30 years old. I don't think anybody else in the stream is. So we'll begin. The first thing, control-wise, something that I found out you can do now is, let me just remember how to do this. If you're on a PS4 and you hold down options, this is what you get. So the HUD just goes away. Indeed. So the HUD just goes away if you hold down options. I imagine that if you're on an Xbox or a PC, there's another button that does that. I think PC has had that feature, and if you hold it down, it'll come back. So if you want to drive without any help of any markers or anything like that, you can just do this. It makes it a lot easier to take screenshots on your actual console, because now you can just press the screenshot button and you don't get to see any of the heads-up display. I'm not going to drive like this because I don't trust myself, so that goes back on. Take it up to 4. And also you can take screenshots still. I tried that, but there is a problem with it. So I'm going to very quickly do that. Yeah, I just took one. Now, it's not really a problem on the HST, because you can't actually move the reverser until the throttle is off. But on other trains where you can move the throttle, then it becomes an issue, because you have to hold down R3 and then hold down the down on the D-pad. And with that being the case, all you'll do is just shift the reverser back. And I imagine in a real life train, what you do then is if you shift it into reverse, you just brake the motors. In this game, what would happen is the wheels would just spin back on themselves, so you'd actually be slowing down. So it's recommended that you just take off the throttle when you're doing that, I guess. And remember that it will move the reverser down, which is a shame. It used to be just one button to actually move the reverser. It's louder on this side of the train for me than it is on the other side, by the way, because I'm only using a mono earphone, a single earphone, the one that came with the PS4. And that's sufficient for me because I don't really like headphones. They annoy me more than anything. So I was going to talk about West Cornwall Local, and if I forgot to mention it, they did extend the total length from Penzance to St Austell and St Ives, which is, St Austell I think is about 40 something miles away from Penzance, so that to me is a bit of an indicator that what we're getting is a HST remodel. But again, it is unconfirmed, it's unknown what the other train in that DLC will be. We just know that there's going to be more than one, because Rivet Games have said themselves. Thank you. That DSD isn't on, is it? No, it's AWS warning me about something. So then, I would guess that's what we're getting. Another HST, or at least an older version of it, which to be quite honest I would prefer. I don't like this version of the HST. I don't like the way it, when I say I don't like it, I mean I don't hate it. I would just prefer an older version of the HST with an older colour scheme. And thank you for suddenly changing the speed limit on me for no... Oh, I get the reason now. That is quite a corner there. Though we didn't go off the track, so we're alright. Plus we're on a hill. Nice. So I took the HST out because I'm going to start. I was starting by talking about it. So aesthetic wise, I prefer an older version of the HST, and to be honest, I think that we should have gotten an older one with Diesel Legends. Just a reskin. That would have been fine, because yes, this is appropriate for the DLC it's in, you know, Great Western Express, but with a name like Diesel Legends of the 1970s, how can you get more legendary than HST, which was conveniently first designed and built and introduced in the mid-70s, so why would you not have it? Why is there a Class 52 in there? Why is there a 101 in there? Why any of that? Why is a reskin of this not in it? I suppose it might be because they were planning to hold one for a future DLC. So then you could be incentivized to purchase the new one, the future one. Because otherwise I can't really see why... in a way it doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't. In a way it kind of does. Still, I hope that's what we're getting with West Cornwall Local. I know we're getting Class 150, that's officially confirmed. So I will look forward to driving that for the first time whenever that comes along. Though I think the 313 will be dropping before that. So I'll also have a go with that if I buy it. So the last one... The 314 is the last one we're going to be covering today. It is just us on the railway, by the way, right now. You're not going to see anything coming the other way, because I didn't really have time to set this little scenario out. I just thought I'll go on the East Coast way. I'll go from Eastbourne to Brighton, because that's a decent distance, and I'll do 1 or 2 passenger stops along the way, just to make sure it's just not just straight driving. If I wanted to go faster than this, I could go on Great Western Express, but I thought, well, at that point I'll just be driving between London and Reading, which I'm doing later anyway with the 314. So, there's that. I do think the HST is relatively easy to drive, except when it comes to braking. I think that's one of the things that can trip you up. So we could stop off at Berwick. I'm going to assume it's pronounced Berwick, because there's Berwick upon Tweed on the border between Scotland and England. And that's pronounced Berwick, so I don't get why this wouldn't be. Keep rolling. Don't stop now. You've got a hell of a lot of horsepower. And probably 4 turbochargers. I don't know exactly how many. But plenty. Should at least accelerate a bit faster than this and keep us rolling. There we go. Thanks for stopping. I wonder if the parking brake will hold it on. Let's have a go. I don't really use it. It's one of these buttons, and I have to very quickly find it before it... There you go. So that should hold it in place. Remind me to take the parking brake off. That's important, because otherwise we can't go anywhere. So... If you're not aware of the recent PS4 fiasco, I'm sure a lot of people are, who are fans of the game and who pay attention to things like the forums and whatnot. parking brake off is that one. Yep. Yeah, we're rolling backwards, that's not good. Nope. Don't roll backwards. I do wonder, this thing doesn't seem to have a lot of get up and go. And I'm sort of wondering why that is. I wonder if Wikipedia will explain that. Probably. How much horsepower have you actually got, this thing? I think it's got an MTU engine, this one. Yeah, it should have. The least interesting of the bunch. 1,770 brake horsepower. Yeah, 1,770 brake horsepower. And yet it doesn't have that much get up and go when it starts moving. I mean, it's fine as it is, you just need to remember to actually give it a bit more oomph than it really needs, unless you really want to start slowly. It is lovely, this thing, though, in its own special way. If it were up to me, we'd have an older version of this in the game, and we'd also have more liveries, more ways to dress it up, and off we go along. I can probably do some of the different camera angles like this. Yeah, there we go. That's alright. Not bad at all, we just clipped through some trees. Well, we can now go through some camera angles, but they are fixed. Not really fit. Well, you can zoom in and out. I mean, it's louder for me on this side, and it's probably the same volume for you on this side, so I think I'll leave it on this side. Yeah, I'll do that, and we'll see what happens. So, I should also mention I didn't have time to do a proper scenario for the 395. Didn't really have any time to do that. And that's mainly because I was doing something else. It actually took me a while to do a scenario for the 314. Because I'm not really familiar with Great Western Express in terms of creating scenarios on it. Like all the other ones, they make sense to me, just Great Western Express doesn't, because it's got about 3 or 4 platforms per station, or at least most of them have it, and you don't really know which one connects to what. There's fast lines and there's slow lines. The fast ones are for the HSTs at 125 miles an hour, and the slow ones are at 90. So you can have 2 trains going pretty much in the same direction at the same sort of time. It's just which one starts where and which one ends where, and will they cross over into each other and cause a bit of a delay for you or whatever. You know what else I was going to mention? I was also going to mention how to get more people into the game. So I started streaming 4 minutes ago. I don't believe that. It's a silly thing to say, YouTube. I don't know why you've said that. Yeah, 20 minutes ago. Sounds about right. I was wondering why they didn't release a proper demo version of this on the PS4. I know they've got one on the Epic Games Store. I know that. That includes the base game, which is another way of saying I think it is the base game, or is it a different build? Can you actually put add-ons onto it, or is it just that it's the base game and if you want the full experience you have to pay? I don't really know. Either way, I'm wondering why the consoles don't have any of that. I'm going to have to slow down to 60. Don't think that's going to work out well in my favour for stopping. No, it certainly isn't. Stopping at Lewis, though. At least that's how I think it's pronounced. I don't really want to go too late on the brakes, because then I'll just be slowing down way too much. I don't want to leave it too early either, because then I'll slow down way too much. I want to leave it sort of just the right time. Although I didn't really mean to slow down to 16. That's not really that fast at all. And sometimes the speed limits here are just too low for my liking. Like 20 going through here. Surely 30 would be more appropriate. I don't know how fast I dare to go through here, but sure you can go a bit faster than 20. Just without having an accident. I know we have to slow down anyway, but that's just in this case. If we were powering on straight through to Brighton, we'd still have to slow down. Oh, nice, you've lowered it to 10. That's a bit unnecessary. And I do feather the brakes. I know some people will say, you're not meant to feather the brakes in this game. Well, too bad, because that's what I do. That's how I get to stop. I think it's more important that I stopped rather than how I stopped, wouldn't you say? Hey. Right, stopping here at Lewis for a little bit. Just a little bit. Doesn't need to be that long. But yeah, the demo version, I'm not sure why they haven't done one on console. Because to me, it makes sense to put it on console. Why wouldn't you? Because I think one of the big things about this game is people say, oh, it's a simulator, and obviously simulators are mainly supposed to be serious. I mean, you've got to know what you're doing, like 99.9% of the time. Navigating through menus, I'm sure people can do, but the rest of this, I think a lot of us, I think all of us needed a tutorial going into this. I know I did. And yeah, once you learn the basics, it's near enough straightforward. But I do think what turns a lot of people off is the fact that you're in control of a train which can so easily just run away with you. And then they think, oh, I don't want to spend money on this because I might not like it. In truth, I spent money on Train Sim World 1. And I did enjoy it for a little while, but then I thought, actually I'm not really feeling this anymore, because it feels really restricted. I didn't like rapid transit. I definitely didn't like NEC New York. I was just stuck playing Great Western Express, and it was okay, but back then I didn't really have a full grasp on things. I think that's why I didn't enjoy it. But now that Train Sim World 2 is the train simulator game for console, now all of a sudden this is a lot better. This is a lot less restrictive, because you've still got services and scenarios. You know, you still got everything that was in the original game, but now you've also got Scenario Planner, which is basically the same thing as, is it called Free Drive on PC for Train Simulator? And then that just lets you do a whole lot more. A lot of people probably think I'm not interested in trains, I wouldn't be interested in doing this, but if they made a free demo version, let's just say give them Great Western Express, but don't give them like the full package. Give them a quarter of it or something. You know, let them have all the trains in that, let them have a bunch of services to do, let them change the weather and all that, and then give them a Scenario Planner feature. And I know that not everyone will like Great Western Express, but it's a start. I think it's the easiest to get into out of all of them, because I wouldn't put something like Glasgow Cathcart Circle as a demo. I wouldn't put Sampax Grade as a demo. I wouldn't put actually Rapid Transit wasn't really that bad. It would work as a demo, I think, Rapid Transit as well. I wouldn't put Bakerloo as a demo DLC. I'd say, even better, go East Coast Way. Or, you know, give them Peninsula Corridor as well. Just give them a few routes that sum up what the game is about. Let people play with it, and then see, you know, ask themselves, do I really want to invest money in this? Because I've tried the game. If they tried it and they like it, they'll buy into it. If they don't like it, they'll just say, well, no money wasted. I mean, it was a free demo. It didn't take up that much space on my PS4 or Xbox or whatever. I had a go, I didn't really like it, then just get rid of it. But I just think that Dovetail asking people to buy the base game and then buy other DLCs on top of that, like, if you want this experience you've got to pay us money, I thought that doesn't really work out in my mind. That doesn't really help. I think we'd have a lot more players and a lot more enthusiastic players if we had a free demo on console. Yeah, just saying. I don't know how many people the Epic Games Store version has brought into the franchise, as it were, but there's hardly any going to be coming in from console, I think, because there is no demo and there's no free trial version, there's no nothing. And there's no use saying that, well, if you look online you'll find reviews and you'll find playthrough videos, because that's how I learned that Train Sim World even existed. I can remember looking at it on YouTube. I found this video. I don't think it was a live stream that was still ongoing. I think it was one that had already happened. And it was Matt Pedleston, one of the developers, who does have his own YouTube channel. It was him doing a live stream of playing Great Western Express on Train Sim World, and I was thinking, I like this. And then I discovered within myself, I've always wanted to drive a train in a video game as a simulator, and I thought, this is a damn good simulator for a console. This looks incredibly good. because I'm going to use the word simulator here very loosely, because I think that PlayStation Store uses that term very loosely, so I'm going to do it too. They'll give us stuff like Goat Simulator, which isn't actually a simulator, it's a mess around and have fun game. There's no official word for that kind of game, but they just call it a simulator, and there are lots of simulators on this console that are really, really crap, that have absolutely no effort put into them whatsoever, that aren't using the full power of the PS4. Or if they claim that they are, in reality what they're doing is they're kind of just what are they doing? They are using part of the PS4 potential, but I think that they just waste. Welcome Techno Neko Echo, welcome, otherwise known as Darkrai, welcome. This is the first of the streams of mine that you've seen. I'm sorry to start without you. I know that you wanted to watch this, but believe me, you haven't missed a whole lot. I'm driving this. If you can hear me, I hope so, because everyone else said the volume is fine, but it is loud. Almost going to be stopping at Brighton soon. I was just saying that yeah, simulator games on the console, apart from this, I can't think of another one that's actually decent. Unfortunately, and that's just the sad truth of it. Maybe there's a bus simulator somewhere that's relatively okay, but I still think it's very... yeah, everything else just seems to be half-baked. This is the only one that seems to have any effort that I've seen. But that's how I got into playing Train Sim World, is because I watched a live stream by somebody and I thought, I like that, I'm going to buy that. I think I asked for it to be bought because this was a while ago. What year did Train Sim World 1 come out? That's something I'm always very fuzzy on. I feel like it's 2016 sort of time, but I could be wrong. And then they, even though they have Train Sim World 2020, it's not exactly a new thing, it's actually the original Train Sim World. Thank goodness for laptops, because otherwise I won't be able to browse the web and do this at the same time. When was it actually released though? That's the good question. Was it 2018? Yeah, it was. So 2018 was the original game. At which point I would have been 18, and I left college a year later, having failed it, or, well, not failed, chickened out. I was actually okay in college, and yeah, I just started playing it, and then realised after a while, actually I don't really feel like playing this very often. And then when Train Sim World 2 comes out, I'm now playing it very, very often. In fact, I've got many miles under my belt. And if there is one thing that I will say, is that I'm not really best pleased with the situation from PS4 to PS5 if you're upgrading, if you feel like doing that. I don't know why you would, because they are going to continue support for the older consoles anyway. And I'm sure a lot of people on PS5 and Xbox, what is it? Is it Series X? What is it? What is the new one? I don't know. The new Xbox. I'm sure a lot of people on those consoles think, oh, PS4 and Xbox One, they're just holding us back. Well, not really. Not really, because I imagine that eventually they've gotten so used to developing things for those consoles that they'll find a way to make use of that extra power without alienating the previous audience, without alienating people on PS4. Now, can I stop in time before I hit the buffers? I imagine that I can. And I did. How nice. Open the doors, unload everybody. Engine off. All good. And then I will have a break for about, I don't know, 3 minutes, if that. And then I'll come back once I've finished this. Shouldn't take long. Come on, off the train. Thank you. Got finished. That took 30... I know it says 38, but I was waiting for the... I did start it up 2 minutes before I pressed stream, so... Did 23.75 miles. That's okay, in that sort of time. I think we were sitting still for quite a while though. I'll go back to the main menu, and I'll be right back, as soon as I possibly can. Right. I do apologise for whatever sound my microphone just made. I know it makes a sound when it gets plugged back in, so yeah. Let me just move on to... I do apologise also for the character models in this game, because they're not really that great. He is just as dead and lifeless as somebody named somebody who's dead and lifeless. You know what? I can't. I don't know anyone dead and lifeless. Anyway, what's next? What is next? 395. I'll take it on its home turf of Southeastern. I will do. And let me see if there's actual not scenario, a timetable that I can do that won't be too long. There's a time limit there. 25 minutes. Right. Oh no. No, so the... Right, I didn't actually know they did it this way. Or at least I think so. An hour and 8 minutes. I'm not really in the mood to do it for an hour and 8 minutes. I will find out. I will make one myself. We're not gonna go all that far. I'll start at St Pancras, because to properly show this train off I do have to do a number of things. And we'll finish at platform 12, and then we go to... I suppose we'll go to Rochester. I suppose that we will. So I'll stop off at Ebbsfleet because I need to, and then Gravesend as well. Maybe. No, we'll go for this length of time, whatever. Go for the 6-car variant because I prefer that one. And will we get lucky and get the Trainbow version? We will have to get incredibly lucky to get that one. There is a class 395 working under Southeastern, the train company, that's painted with a rainbow. It's called the Trainbow. I know that sounds very cheesy, and well, it is, and I imagine a lot of people would rather stick cocktail sticks in their eyes than repeat that out loud, but it is called the Trainbow, and it's supposed to celebrate Pride. Have we got 395012? Because that is the code. No, we have 395017. So 395 is the class number, 017 is the number that this is, produced off the line. In real life, it is real, the Trainbow, and I imagine that some other companies have painted some of their trains with that design. Now, how do I begin this? Master key needs to be in. There we go. Pantograph needs to be up. Control. Pan up, shoot down. And then that button should be up. Have we actually got the pantograph up? I don't think it adjusts, but we'll see. No, it doesn't adjust in this mode, but whatever. I am aware also that I didn't use the HST's horn at all. I'm sorry if you like horns. I know I do. I just forgot it. Headlights on daytime, and we'll open the doors just by using the D-pad. And open, and everyone just gets out before we've even begun. Thank you. A little bit of horn action. It should engage. Will it engage? See, I don't really like this handle here. It seems a bit fiddly. We could have the wipers on. It can rain in this game. It's just you have to set it and tell it to. Will you engage? Yes, you will. And away we go. And I will need the cab lights on for when we go into the tunnel, and there is a really long tunnel. I can only apologise for the length of time that we're going to spend in that tunnel, but we are going to be going pretty fast. And if you're wondering, a couple of things about this particular train. It's got two different power modes, one of which we're using right now. We're using the overhead cables, the overhead line. We are officially more powerful using that. We're going to be able to hit very... I don't know exactly how fast, but a lot faster than what we're going right now. This is reading out in kilometers per hour because the system that we're using is going to be called TVM, and that's a... I think it's a French invention. See, the French know more about just snails and cheese. They know about trains, because I'm going to be honest, their train system seems to be a lot better than ours. It just seems to be better thought out, to be honest, and faster. TVM is going to engage as soon as we get in this tunnel, and then I'll try and explain what it is. There you go. And on it comes, and that says 080, that's in kilometers per hour. That's what the speed limit is coming up. So TVM, and there's 200 kilometers an hour. TVM was essentially invented because the trains that it was going to be used on were travelling too fast for you to actually read the boards at the side of the railway to tell you what the speed limit is. So what TVM does is it sends a message to the train ahead of time so that the driver can see what the actual speed limit is, if that makes any sense. So the speed limit is going to be 200. It's confusing because my speedo is in miles per hour, because I have it set to be always in miles per hour, because that's what I'm measuring. But the train will read in 140 kilometers. So pay attention to the kilometers when TVM is doing its thing, but also it does place a marker on your speedo there. We're going very fast in here. So two different power modes. The other one is DC, which I'm going to be using for like, I don't know, 5 minutes because it's incredibly slow. I'd rather use AC everywhere because I've got the choice. If you're playing the actual game in timetable mode where the rules apply, 225, okay. If you're playing timetable mode or any other mode and you get past the overhead lines, you can't actually go any further if you're still on AC power. You've got to actually switch the train over. And in another DLC, if you have it, LGV Mediterranean, I'm just going to call it the one in the south of France, right? In that one you do have to switch over from DC to AC, or from AC to LGV, then back to DC, I think. You start in Marseille, which uses AC, which is old-fashioned by French standards. Quite a bit outdated, slowing down. Then you move on to LGV, which is a different power mode. and you have to switch over from AC to LGV whilst on the move. So there are cables still above us that are still powering us. We're still connected. And in the DLC that's in the south of France, you are still moving, where you have to change over. There'll be a point where the AC cables just stop, and at that point you've got no power, so you have to disconnect the pantograph and then, raise it back up to connect to the LGV line that's going to be starting a ways up the track. But for a brief, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles, you don't actually have any power available, so if you came to a sudden stop you wouldn't really be able to get moving again, I don't think. It sounds more difficult than it is. It sounds harder the way I'm saying it. You could do it on the move in this, but I wouldn't trust yourself to do that. The game has you stopping at Ebbsfleet anyway, where you have to change over if you're playing by the rules, which I will do for a brief moment just to show you how to do it. But we can actually look outside the tunnel. The only problem is it doesn't really look that great. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really look that great inside here, but you still got the line up there. Is there any window in here? There isn't, is there? Because we're going too fast. Right, good. Speed up a bit. So, if anybody has any questions about anything, or would like to mention anything, please do in the screen chat, and I will do my best to read it. Even though I know it's on the screen as well, but sometimes it kind of bugs out and doesn't want to play ball. So, but I do. That's why I have my laptop open, so I can actually see what's going on. And I do believe that we've got Artorius Lefay in the background as well. I know he's been here for a while. He just hasn't messaged in the chat. But I know he's here, watching, waiting to do something. He owes me money, I know. Just kidding. No, just kidding, he doesn't owe me anything. Technically. Not really. No. Just messing around. I might as well turn the hood off. Have you got a favourite route you'd like to see in the game? Oh goodness. That is difficult because I don't use trains often. If I had to suggest somewhere where we could have a route, it would definitely be, well, Wales. Let's go with Wales, because Wales is great. Something like... There is a train simulator route that isn't too far. I think it would fit in the Train Sim World universe. What is it? Is it Bristol to Cardiff? Or Bristol to Swansea? That'd be nice, I think. Or just anywhere, mostly anywhere in Wales, somewhere it's not a specialised piece of track, where we can drive almost anything, and you know, it's not super modern, but it's modern enough. Oh, we're coming out of the tunnel. Lovely. And we are travelling very fast. Have I got a favourite route? I would choose Wales. Don't know where anybody else would choose, but that's where I would pick. I mean, where would you pick Spyro the Dragon? Because I imagine that you might be more knowledgeable about this. My local line would be Northern Transpennine in the game, which is technically going to be called Transpennine Express in real life. Or it is called that. And to be honest, a more modern interpretation of that would be nice. That goes a bit further than it does in the game. I know that's kind of like repeating something we've already got, but would be probably nice, I mean, to have that. Choose Tyne Wear Metro, that's my local route. I have no idea about trains, I just like the game. I mean, to be honest, you and I are kind of in the same boat. I know a bit about trains, but not enough that I would be called an expert. I mean, I have to look on Wikipedia for things. And, yeah, I prefer to ask other people when it comes to specific details about routes and trains, but Tyne Wear Metro, I've actually seen that one suggested quite a bit on the Dovetail forums, to be honest. And has it been in any other train simulator games, so I can actually have a look at it? I don't know if it has. I know I'm slowing down. I don't really need to, but I do apologise for the pop-in and the draw distance and all that, but it is a console, this is pushing it. I think this is far enough away that it's fairly quiet. Haven't got a clue, but it's apparently been suggested a few times. Later on I'll probably have a look on YouTube and see if it has been in any games. It might have been in Train Simulator. I mean, there are people I think who make custom, who make mods. So maybe they've done it in a mod. I don't know. Mods, another thing I don't get to experience on being on a console. Though what's here is already nice enough, I think. I've seen the New York City subway suggested about 1 billion times already. And I'm sort of thinking, yeah, we get it, the New York City subway, but TVM says I need to be slowing down. 225. Oh, it's going up. Alright. Really steep gradient going down. Back into the tunnels we go. We will come out again fairly shortly though. Oh, now am I speeding? Oh, that's nice. It's a good route, it'd be good for the game. I just want lots of routes like driving trains. You like driving trains? Good. I think more people would enjoy driving trains if they did, like I said, a demo version of this game on console. I think more people would get to try it and see how it is for themselves. See if they actually would enjoy it. But there's not much potential to do things with friends in this game. But I don't think multiplayer would work on this. I don't think multiplayer would be possible. Because I have no idea how multiplayer would work in a game like this. Because if you think about it, if somebody in front of you on the track, because the signals are designed so that when a train is in that block, you can't really go past them. So if somebody in multiplayer was just to sit there, you couldn't complete the actual whatever you're doing. You couldn't get past them because they're in the way. Not only would you not be able to, you won't be able to push them out of the way because that's A, unsafe, and B, it's not possible because the signals would just stop you leading up to the person that's in your way, so you'd basically be stuck if somebody was in front of you. However, if they introduced, well, introduce something to do with co-op, I suppose. Could have like 5 friends on one route, and if you break the train then it takes you out of the game or something. There's a lot of problems with trying to make a but I know what you mean. There's a lot of problems with making a multiplayer, but if they were to make I don't know, if would people find it better if also you can't really pause the game. I mean, you can when you're alone. Right, now I need to switch it over. DC. Panel shoes down. Has it engaged DC power? That's the thing. I don't know until I eventually start to move it. I think you start off a month now, that's why it's hard to create, but I hope they do one day when I'm 50. It will probably take that long for them to figure it out. Perhaps if they introduce some kind of now we're in miles per hour, by the way, on DC, but we are a lot slower than we would normally be otherwise, so I'll probably switch it back to AC at some point. So the overhead wires are just gone now. They've run out. If you're in the main game, you'll be travelling on the 3rd rail, which is here. You can see it on the edge. But since we're in scenario mode, scenario planner mode, sorry, we can do whatever we want. I could switch it back to AC and it wouldn't really care. The train will always act as if it's powered. I also haven't turned AWS on, which we couldn't really use whilst in TVM mode. There we go. Nice. This have pretty good brakes though. 395. It's just modern enough for my tastes. I don't think any train in this game is particularly difficult to drive. I feel like there's a decent level of challenge with every single one of them. Some are easier than others to drive, but I wouldn't say any of them are impossible to get to grips with eventually. It's just, can you put the time in to get to grips with them? That's the thing. I think they should make better tutorials for this game. I don't think they're in depth enough. They teach you the basics, but just the basics doesn't really help all the time. Hmm. Well, good effort. I mean, I'm not disappointed with what's here. Oh, yep, sure. Thanks, camera angle. I'm just passing Gravesend, which is at the... well, still in London. London is a big place. A very big place. It's ghastly, it's huge. You get lost so easily. Hmm. And before anybody wonders, there are some United States routes for Chains and Worlds, and there are some routes in Germany. However, I don't really like either of those. That's not because I'm biased, that's not because I just like the UK stuff. It's just that most of the stuff, personally, this is just me saying it, most of the stuff in the American DLCs appear to have just, well, it seems like they've got cheese for brakes. And it seems that that's intentional, because even in Boston Sprinter, which is the most recent thing that we've seen from Dovetail as of the time of this stream, even in that, the brakes are like Swiss cheese on the ACS 24, is it? I know that lots of people want to see the ACS 24 come back, because the NEC New York in the original game did have its fans, and it was one of the DLCs that they just couldn't put into the Preserve collection, which is why we don't have it now. And I was thinking, why man, come on DC Power, you can do better than that. Come along. I'm going to switch over to AC, I don't even care. Can I do it while moving? Will you scream at me if I... Right, there you go. Pan up, shoes down. Where's the button? Engage. AC. No. Do I have to be stopped? I'm gonna have to stop, aren't I? Can it only do it while stopped? Maybe it can only do it while stopped. Is that why you don't want to switch over? There's AC there, but you don't press that. Just stop the thing. Right, DC. Nice, okay. Have you now engaged with AC? Oh, you have, that's nice. It does sound different as well when you're using AC. I'm switching back to you because you're much quicker. You can get this job done a bit quicker. Alright, most German trains are those red ones, doesn't seem to have much variety. UK trains have more variety. They do, that is true, because the only operator in Germany, actually there's only two that Dovetail have actually got the license for the actual trains in the game. Deutsche Bahn, which Deutsche Bahn actually own Arriva, I think, in the UK. At least the bus section of it, because it does say Arriva, a Deutsche Bahn company. I mean, I trust the Germans to run Arriva, but it is nice that Arriva get to keep their name, not just have everything changed to, oh, it's Deutsche Bahn now. Oh, is it? Really? I think half the people in the UK couldn't even say Deutsche Bahn. Yeah, that's why they all seem to be red. There is some variety in terms of the actual trains themselves, but in terms of the way that they're all painted, they all do look the same. And they do seem to repeat a few trains between the German routes, and to be honest, the scenery is just not. It's just not there for me. And I know a lot of people complained about South Eastern High Speed, where we're now on, not being that interesting to look at, or just looking a bit dull and bland. But I can't tell one German route from the other. There's no real visual cues to tell me that it's different to any other. I haven't really played much of them, but I just don't feel inclined to. They do have some nice trains though that operate in okay ways. I mean, they're all pretty easy, but they are all electric, aren't they? With UK trains, you've got older diesel trains, you've got different operators, different companies associated with them, a wider variety of a wider variety of, they can be electric, they can be diesel. I know that one day we're probably going to get steam in the game. The brakes better not be on. I hope they're not. Yeah, you know, steam, diesel. Does that say 24 kilometers an hour? Ah, because the speed. Oh, right. Still stays on. Yeah. But I'm not going to slow down that much when we get to Strood, because it's just not necessary. It really isn't. There's no need to be travelling at like 20 miles an hour for the end of this tunnel. Thanks, AWS. But yeah, bigger variety with the UK trains, I think. The US trains, same sort of thing. You've got Amtrak, but that's only really for NEC New York and Boston to Providence. I think the rest are all MTA, and then also Union Pacific and Caltrain, but that's really, don't come off the rails, please don't. Not when we got this far, and there's an interesting bit coming up I want to show people. Don't. You can handle it, you can handle it. Don't go off the rails. Sorry for not braking, but I was too busy talking about silly American companies, of which I can't name them all. CSX. But again, there doesn't seem to be much variety, because there's a lot of things in the CSX Sandpatch grade. Hold on, I'll shut up, because there is something interesting coming up on our left. You can see it there. That is indeed a submarine. Yes, it is real. It is there in real life. I don't remember its name, but I'm pretty sure a quick Google search will tell you very quickly. Thank you, AWS. I know to slow down. Submarine Submarine U475 Black Widow is moored on the river. What river is this that flows through Kent? Don't remember. Some rich guy owns it, I believe so. I think he bought it from... I think it was after, when the Cold War ended. Or has it always been there? I feel like when the Cold War ended it was just captured and sold. Because they didn't really know what to do with it. It's a Russian submarine. I should say Soviet, technically. Because they're not really the same... Russia and Soviets, they're not really the same anymore. It's not the same sort of thing. So I should technically say Soviet submarine. But, yeah, it's a Russian submarine. Similar to German U-boats. Except German U-boats are both boats and submarines. At the same time. Which is a bit... Or they're kind of... some odd in between. I don't really like saying German U-boats though, because U-boats are very much associated with, especially World War Two. They were originally World War One, but they didn't really have much of a use, I don't think, until the second. But yeah, there we go. That was the 395, and the last one we're going to cover today is the 314, which should take us... don't know how long, but it'll be on the Great Western Express. Imagine owning a submarine. I could imagine it, but then I could also imagine it that you can't move it. To be honest, I don't even know how it got there. I will be back, though. I won't be too long. And then I'll start with the 314 when I get back. Okay, I know that took longer than 5 minutes, I think. But it did remind me that we have to... I'm going to go on Great Western Express. I've got a scenario all lined up. It's this one. I'll drive the 314. Which is operated by ScotRail, or was. Because out of the 15 total units that they built, only one is actually still left, and it's actually converted into a hydrogen powered train, just as a proof of concept, as part of ScotRail's kind of, oh look, this is our plan for the future, to have a hydrogen powered train. It doesn't really work, it only works in concept, it doesn't work in practice, because it just can't carry enough hydrogen to power it for that long. But it does work in concept. And the rest have all been scrapped. So officially, I'm driving a relic that you'll never see again. Because they're just all gone. So it's nice that you can still see it in the game. I'm going to turn on the AWS right now. Cab lights should turn those on. And we are going to be driving quite a distance, all the way from London Paddington, which is where we are now, to Reading. But we're not going to be stopping at every single station, because that will take far too long. This is what we've got. Better view of it there. I've opened them on the wrong side. Clever. Lock the left doors, thank you. That wasn't a good look. Opening them on the wrong side. But, yeah, so imagine owning a sub. I guess I would suppose that the owner of it can't actually move it. I think the issue is it's permanently moored there by law. He can't really move it from where it is. And to be honest, it's very hard to... I also remember the name of the river, the River Medway. But I don't think he can actually move it by law. I think it's moored in very shallow water, because it's a river. It's not really going to be that deep for a... Has it closed that door as well? It has, hasn't it? It closes both sides at the same time. But, yeah. What I was also going to say, there is a video by Lindy Page, if you want to go watch it. Lindy Page is a good YouTube channel, if you want to learn about history and interesting stories from then. He did a whole video about U-boats in the Second World War, and effectively how you sink them, or how the Allies used to do that. Because U-boats were a real problem. If you're not sure on what a U-boat is, it's a submarine that the Germans used, and I don't like using the word German because they're obviously not the same Germans as today. But it's, you know, obviously Nazi Germany and whatnot. The idea behind a U-boat is that it's a boat, but it also goes underwater. And so, it's basically like fighting a modern day submarine. It's very hard to do, especially back then with the technology. Now, things like sonar and radar will only get you so far, because I think they were all designed to resist things like sonar. Though radar is a British invention, and it was actually what helped win the Battle of Britain, because we could see the Luftwaffe coming effectively, which confused the hell out of them, because they must have wondered how come they know where we're going to attack and where we're coming from, because of radar stations along the coast of England. So that was handy. The Luftwaffe, I think, outnumbered us about 3 to 1. in terms of actual planes and manpower. Because as great as a Spitfire is, in terms of a flying machine, it's not invincible, because it depends on the situation. It's one Spitfire against 3 Messerschmitts, essentially, is what it is. That's the odds. And no matter how good of a pilot you are, you're always going to be outnumbered, so the addition of radar on the Allied side really helped. And I think the Germans then developed their own radar, though I don't think it worked remotely the same way. But to do something like fighting a U-boat, it's relatively difficult to do. What used to happen is U-boats would attack in packs, and they would attack British merchant vessels that were carrying mostly cargo. At this point, it's very early in the war that this started to become a problem. They would attack in packs, and one U-boat would be stationed quite a ways away from the actual ship they were attacking. But that one U-boat was the cause of the problem, because it would tell all the other U-boats, hey, there's a British ship here, you want to come and sink this, and it would just relay the coordinates. So then all the other U-boats would come and attack it, and they would never have to surface, they would never have to show themselves, because they knew exactly where the ship was. And then by the time that you could scramble planes or any other ships to go and look for these U-boats, they've already gone. And the one that sent the message in the first place, that's long gone. You've got no idea where they've gone, because they just dove under the water. But the major downfall in terms of practicality of a U-boat was that they could only really stay underwater for a certain length of time. Any longer than that, they'd have to go back up. But to even send a message, they'd have to surface, because you've got an antenna to raise. So a U-boat would just physically rise to the surface, a guy would get out of the hatch and then put up a big aerial, and then from that he'd send a message to the other U-boats, who at the time would have their aerials up as well to receive the message. At least I think that's probably the case, or they send it back to German command or somewhere, Navy command or whatever. And then they're exposed in that position. You can see them just as well as you can any other ship. It's very easy to detect them and see them. And the British slowly started to work out that this is exactly what they were doing, and this is how they were somehow hounding British merchant vessels out of nowhere. They would just appear randomly. If you can imagine the kind of shock that a captain must experience when he hears, oh, by the way, Captain, we're surrounded by German U-boats, just out of nowhere. And before you can even blink, they've already fired a torpedo at you. And you can't really fire back, because you don't really know where they are if they're underwater. That was the kind of scale. I've hit the emergency brakes. I shouldn't have done that. But if I'm boring you all to death, please tell me and I will shut up. I promise that I will. Eventually, the Allies cottoned on to this and started detecting the signals that they were sending. They realised that the Germans were sending signals essentially as little... they sounded just like little bleeps and bloops. You couldn't tell exactly what they were saying to each other. It was played so quickly but they found that if you slowed that down, you would actually hear Morse code, and you'd be able to tell what they're telling each other. So eventually, we could essentially hear what they were going to do next, and we could also detect where that signal came from. So the Germans eventually found out when their attacks weren't working anymore. They then thought, they've locked onto our signal, they know where we are, let's use a scrambling device. And that scrambling device is called METOX. And METOX was in fact developed by the French. I believe they just stole it because they occupied France at the time. So they were scrambling the messages, we couldn't understand what they were saying anymore. But we could still pick up the signal, even though we couldn't really tell what they were saying. I believe this is how it goes. We knew they were broadcasting a message, and we knew roughly where from. So we used to dispatch converted bombers, which were converted to destroy U-boats. And on these converted bombers, we had what was called ley lights. And ley lights would essentially just follow the signal. So when a U-boat was starting transmitting, we would send a bomber out. It would know where the signal was, and it would just simply make a beeline towards the U-boat. And the ley lights were there because often they tried doing this at night. The Germans tried sending messages at night where you couldn't really see a ship doing this, because they knew that as soon as they got out of the water they were exposed. And so eventually, when the bomber had caught up with the U-boat, they were still transmitting. If you can just imagine a very, very large plane bearing down at you, and suddenly these lights just illuminate where you are. Suddenly they've found you. And the guy who's got the antenna, he has to rush down back into the U-boat to try and dive and get away. But by the time that he's even opened the hatch to get back in, they're probably just blown out of the water, because they've already been seen and found. And then the Germans thought, oh, they must be detecting our transmitters, our METOX transmitters, our little jamming devices. Actually, no, we weren't. So they took those away. That made the job easier for us, because now we could hear what they were saying again. So, cheers for getting it wrong. And it was just a back and forth game to see who could stay ahead of the game. So the Germans would get ahead, they would get a little bit of an upper hand, but then the British would come back and say, actually, I've got this piece of technology now and we can find you again. And there were actually survival statistics. If you were operating a U-boat, you were much more likely to be dead by the end of the war than actually survive, because of how this back and forth game was going. So being put in a U-boat wasn't really a good thing. You might think you're safe, but you're not. Or they thought they were safe, but they weren't. And there are much more anti-U-boat things that the British developed over the course of World War II. They're very interesting. This is something that I learned literally today. I think a train coming. Yay! There's a 375 there. But what I learned today was there's a program on the TV called Mysteries at the Museum. It's an American program, so I imagine that the US has seen it before we have. In fact, the episodes I think are dated from 2018, so it's quite a few years back. But it is incredibly interesting because today they were actually on about something World War II related and U-boat related. In a museum in, I believe, Chicago. It's a military museum as well as a library. They have a Walther PP, I think it's a PPK, handgun behind a glass case, which oddly enough is the same weapon used by Mr. Hitler to shoot himself. And there are still a lot of theories as to what happened to Mr. Adolf Hitler. But the proper scientific truth is that yes, he did commit suicide. Yes, he did ask people to burn his body. And yes, he was identified using dental records. But one of the theories is that it's just a body double that they found. So there are about 2 instances where the Russians who had taken over Berlin at this point, the Germans were losing. The days were numbered. The sad truth is, I don't defend the actions of the Germans in World War II, but I do sympathise with them a little bit because essentially they weren't allowed to surrender. Not at all. So it was either die or be killed by your own men for surrendering. Basically, it is what was going to happen. Or a lucky few may have gotten away, but yeah, those were the orders. Either we lose by dying, or you end up dying because you're branded as a traitor and you're going to be shot. Mr. Hitler knew that the war was over. The Germans were beaten. The Russians had them dead to rights. They were surrounding Berlin, tearing through it, burning it to the ground. And so he shot himself. And also his wife, Eva Braun, committed suicide as well, by a cyanide pill, I think it was. Now, there were 2 instances where the Russians thought that they had found the body. The first one, the body was intact, but that turned out to be just a body double, because obviously he would use something like that because it would give him time to get away. You know, some guy's job was to look like him and make everyone think that he's dead. But turned out that it wasn't him. It was just a body double. The real body was actually burned. But the reason why we get into the mysteries at the museum is because one of the other theories was that he escaped on a U-boat. And for the longest time, this theory was, I imagine it would have been going on until fairly recently, where it was proven that actually, no, it's impossible for him to escape on a U-boat. The reason why people thought it was possible was because there was one U-boat missing from the fleet that they just never found. So all the rest of them had either been accounted for by being destroyed or being accounted for because they're still left in the pens that they built. So everyone's wondering, okay, well, where is this U-boat now then? Did he really escape on that? And the answer is no. Even if none of those bodies were him, one of them definitely is because of dental records, but even if that wasn't him, he would still be dead. Because the U-boat that had escaped was found sunk off the coast of Denmark in, I think, the mid-2000s by a team of explorers who had detected something under the water and found out, oh, it's the missing U-boat. It's the one, because it's got a very distinctive shape. So there you go. That should leave any theories, because the man is definitely dead. Even if he managed to escape, he would have died from old age. And great that he's gone. You know, that's an understatement, but great that he is gone. But just to quell any theories that he may have survived the Russians bearing down on him, the answer is no. And also, in terms of even just logically thinking about it, do you think the Russians would let him get out alive? Do you think they wouldn't have scoured the place? Because they have. They did, most definitely. There's no way. No way. But, there you go. Found off the coast of Denmark. Very near to the land, and there's even an account from the time that says that yes, it was sunk by a British bomber who reported sinking one around that area. So, there you go. Take off the brakes for a start. And away we go again. I know, this entire me relaying this information is pretty boring. It's history, so you learn new things. Strange, what's already happened can teach you a bit more than what you initially grew up learning. And besides, the whole history aspect of when I was at school wasn't really all that interesting, I've got to be honest. I mean, learning about the Tudor period a little bit, but and the Stuarts, but that's just English history. The English Civil War, like just a little bit. Nothing really mind-blowing. I actually learn far more about history now that I'm out of school through programs like QI on BBC Two, or just history documentaries, or just the strangest places like videos on YouTube. You actually learn far more interesting things doing that than being at school. That's crazy. Don't know how many trains are actually coming our way, or if any of them actually stop. I can look ahead and check, but it will take my vision away from the driving. Still, I hope it's not completely barren. I did set it up to have all the trains coming the way, as we've already seen, but I'm not sure about the timings on this route. Thanks AWS. AWS is an interesting safety system. I was going to go on about the Paddington rail disaster, or there was another one before that in 1997, though I can't really remember where that one was. But there is footage of it online, by the way. There is a camera that actually recorded that happening. And if I can find it, I'll post it in the chat very quickly. It's harrowing viewing. It's only about 15 seconds worth of footage, but you do see what happened, and it is quite eye-opening. There's no blood, there's no guts, there's no explosion, there's no crazy thing like that, but believe me when I say this, you need to have a look, because it is quite astounding. And I think the death total from that was only 7, that time that I'm talking about, but after that it was much worse. The Paddington Ladbroke Grove, because that's where it happened, but I digress. Anyway, who's still watching for a start? Have I put you all to sleep, or what? Let's start off with that. Oh, Southall. It was in Southall, which we just passed, I think. Maybe we'll start there. 11 seconds. I'm gonna post that link to that video in the chat of this live stream. And this is footage from the time, I believe. I don't think this has been faked at all. Don't think you can fake this. If you can, what good skills. But yeah, there's the video if you want to watch it. I think the death total from that was only 7, which is quite amazing considering what actually happens. But the later Paddington disaster, that was much worse. Much worse. Oh, is that where we're stopping? Oh. Have I done this wrong? Have I done the wrong... I've done the wrong one, haven't I? Because I was supposed to be going to Reading. That's a bit eerie. We stopped at Southall and that's where that disaster happened. You'll probably do something, because there is a bit more to talk about. Just a bit more. So maybe I should save it for a later stream, I don't know. I do not know. I have covered all 3 now officially. That is very much true. Yeah, it was this one that I was supposed to do. No wonder it didn't really look right. Alright, well I suppose I'll save that for another one, where I'm going to showcase other things. And whatnot. I guess we could finish off on the HST with West Somerset Railway. We could do that. It's only a short journey. You can just start from somewhere random and finish somewhere random. If people want to know why the Paddington rail disaster happened, I don't know about Southall. I think it was a similar sort of deal, where the lack of a safety system that is required these days in the UK would have prevented both of them. But at the time it wasn't mandatory for them to have it. So I first have to explain AWS to anybody who doesn't know. AWS stands for Automatic Warning System. It's on a train. It's what you've been hearing beeping and making noises in these videos in the stream. In fact, I'll turn it on right now. Master key on. Engine off. So there's AWS isolation. I'm turning it on. It's a self-test alarm, and this little sunflower is what displays an alert if there is one. And AWS, what it does is there are magnets in the track, and you won't really hear it on West Somerset Railway because this is a heritage rail. It's run by, I believe it's got a charity of its own that preserves old steam trains for one, but they're not actually featured in the game. We get diesel trains in this game, and there aren't really any safety devices or anything like that on here because it's not mandated by the network, the national network. So what you find here is just old pieces of signage, and there's an old lamp, things like that. Interesting place to go. I haven't been there myself, but heard about it certainly. And I'm not driving with any lights, but no one's really in front of me to see. So, AWS, there's magnets in the track, and they're either on or they're off, and the magnets interact with something that's underneath the train to make it go beep. If the signal that's ahead of you is yellow, or otherwise known as amber, or red, it will beep. And then the driver has to clear that warning, and that warning will tell him to look at the signal because it's something other than green, and you need to take notice of it and react accordingly. What happened in 1999, there's a high-speed train travelling at 125 miles an hour going into Paddington. It's quite a ways away. At the same sort of time, there's a little Thames Turbo, what's essentially a predecessor to the Class 166 that we got in this game. It might even be the same thing. And that can only go about, 90 miles an hour? Something like that. They both got AWS on, and they both do as they're told. The systems are working perfectly. When the driver of the little Thames Turbo gets to signal number SN109, that's the code, and if you look at SN109 pictures of it nowadays, it's not the same as it was in 1999. It was actually changed afterwards because of what happened, because it wasn't a typical design. It didn't make any sense to a driver. What you have in the UK is you have 3 aspect signals or 4 aspect signals, where you will be able to tell by which light is illuminated what signal it is. On SN109, it's a different layout, so you couldn't immediately tell whether it's orange or red. Normally you will be able to tell just fine, but the signal presenting to the Thames Turbo was red, but to the driver it looked orange because of the sun. Believe it or not. Sometimes what happens on the railways is the sun is at just the right height to reflect off the back of the lens of the signal. So it looks as if it's lit up. But obviously drivers know that only one of the lights can be lit up at any one time. So, and if the AWS system hasn't gone off, then it's a green, basically. It's supposed to be. But that phenomenon is known as phantom signalling. And that is indeed what happened. So the AWS system can't tell between a red and an orange signal. All it can tell you is it's either orange or red, and you have to look for yourself to work out which it is. It was red, which means stop, but the driver thought it was yellow, which means you don't need to stop, you can just go through. But be prepared to stop later on, or keep going as you are, but be prepared, because the next one might be a red. So then he's like, okay, I'll clear the alarm, it looks orange, I can still go. Big mistake, because he's now heading straight into the path of an oncoming high-speed train at 125 miles an hour, weighing, I think just the locomotive unit itself is over 100 tons, travelling at that speed. It'd be like you walking straight into the path of a regular train for scale, travelling at that speed. You've got no chance. It could have still been prevented after that, because there are people in the control centre who can see what's going on, and they knew that there's a train coming towards this little Thames Turbo train. They could have stopped them both, but they didn't react in time. The little Thames Turbo did get a message to stop, but it's unknown whether the driver actually saw it. He had no idea there was a high-speed train coming towards him until it's, well, way too late. The driver of the high-speed train had no idea that it was going to be crossing paths with a little diesel train like that. They did try to stop the high-speed train, but by the time that the red signal went through, he was already past it, so he wouldn't have seen it. And also, stopping a train at 125 miles an hour, even in a video game, I mean, the video game is designed to be, this simulator is designed to be, I think, as real as possible, so it's not easy. I could demonstrate that for you if I was travelling at 125 on here, but I can't because it's too windy on here. But you've got something like this except much longer. Exactly the same sort of thing. But many more carriages than this, so every one of those carriages adds a bit to the weight, and then there's also 2 locomotives, one at each end. I think that both weigh over 100 tons each, so imagine how much force imagine how much of an impact that makes. I imagine it could go straight through about 15 houses in a row. Probably. Maybe even more, if it was travelling fast enough and there was no... If conceivably it jumped off the tracks and went into a house, how many houses would it pass through before it eventually just stopped? I couldn't tell you. Quite a few though. So, with that in mind, what could have prevented it was something called automatic train protection, which is something that will intervene automatically if the signal is red. So if the driver doesn't do anything, the system will. Nowadays, that's mandatory. So something like that can never really happen again, because the systems of one of the trains would intervene, and then another one would then intervene so that they don't cross paths into each other. I can't tell you the death count off the top of my head, but it was quite high, higher than the one that I said before, 7. I think it was over 30 for this one, and about 200 odd put in hospital with injuries, and 200 and something as well escaping with minor injuries, but they had to be treated at the scene. Yeah, it's not great. But we've come quite far. I mean, that's only 1999 when that happened, so we've come quite a ways since then for railway safety. It is still important to be safe on the railways. I mean, in this game I don't really suffer any consequences, but the game does sort of make it clear that if you do pass a red signal, you know, you're going back to the main menu, or you have to start all over again, because in real life I think passing a red signal would probably be grounds for losing your job. Probably. Or being let go from work for quite a while. The train would just stop itself, but still, you'd probably be in quite a lot of trouble if you willingly did that. Even if you didn't willingly do it, you'd probably be in a lot of trouble. So the game does make it clear that there are some things that you shouldn't do. Even if I was to pass this red signal that's up ahead 1.1 miles away, the game would still say you failed. Even though there's nothing coming my way, there's nothing that's going to hit me, because I've set it up so that nothing's coming the other way. It still does that because it's not safe for you to do that, to go past the red signal. That's the whole idea of having them. Anyway, so for 2 hours and 2 minutes I've been streaming for, and I'm going to call this the end, pretty much, once we've unloaded all the passengers, of which there aren't too many. Pretty much a ghost town. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this stream. We covered all the trains in the title of the video, of the stream, sorry, and it was nice to have more people than usual. It's nice to have some questions and answers, and nice to talk to you about all these different things. And I'll see you in the next stream, which I'm actually hoping to make on next Monday. Monday the... what will it be? Good question. Monday the 7th? No, 6th of September, I think. That's when next Monday will be. hopefully around the same sort of time as tonight, which was quarter to 1 in the morning actually in the UK, so I make them late, I know I do. Thanks for coming, I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all whenever.